Moving on to step number 5 now. Step number 5 is the construction of the gun barrel. And the, I believe it's called the mantlet, something like that. The gun barrel is in 2 halves. The mantlet section is in 3 parts, and they're all on the same sprue, which is the B sprue. Here's the gun barrels. Here's the mantlet sections. So what I'm going to do is cut all these parts out now, of course, and I'll start putting this together. Now, since this gun barrel is in 2 halves, it's going to have a seam after we get done putting it together, which will have to be sanded and smoothed out so that it looks a little bit more realistic that way. And that's always a bit tricky. So now I'm going to go ahead and start working on this. The the 2 barrel halves are a sloppy fit. There are, there are 2 pins, one up here and one down by the base of the barrel, and no pin in the middle. So when I line these pins up and snap them together like so, the 2 halves are mismatched. They don't line up very well. You kind of have to maneuver them with your fingers and squeeze and hold them in place. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to start with the end of the barrel here, and I'm going to apply some glue, and I'm going to have to hold it in place with my fingers until it dries. That's all there is to it. There's no other way to line this thing up properly. And then there's going to be some nice seams that I have to clean up. So the only thing I dislike about some of these older kits is that the barrels for these guns come in 2 halves. So I'm going to work on that. Yeah, so the step 5 is done. Here is the main gun and the mantlet that it goes into, like so. I will leave that gun barrel off for now, and yeah, that's it. So that is done. Step 6. They say step 6 is the fixing of escape hatch. So this looks like it's all on the A sprue, 1 piece from the B sprue. Okay, so let's find those parts. Here are all the parts I need for step 6. We have this piece of armor plating. We have the hatch. And it goes, let's see, we turn this thing over. There we go. Turn this thing over like this. We take this hatch and we put it so that it's facing in like that. I guess that's all it does, huh? That just fits in there like so. I see. So that hatch has to line up. You see these little marks right there. They have to line up with these other marks. So what we'll do is put a touch of glue right here. And we will put that in place, and we will twist it until it lines up with that. Okay. I don't know if you can see that, how it lines up, but that's how it lines up. Then we have this big handle looking thing here that gets put on this hatch. I need to kind of clean this part up. Hold on. Yeah, well, here we go. I have the turret put together. The tolerances for these parts is not very, it's pretty sloppy. Sloppy in places and too tight in others. You know, it kind of all fits together, but it's a little, I've seen better Tamiya kits than this. Especially this back panel here where this escape hatch is, it just doesn't fit very well. There's quite a gap here. I might fill it in with a piece of plastic, I'm not sure yet. But that is step 7 done. Okay. Steps 8 and 9 are construction of the figures, the crew figures, and fixing of gun turret parts. So as far as these crew figures go, I'm going to wait on those guys. And we'll just concentrate on working on this turret more. Now, in instructions they show the barrel on, but if I left this barrel on like that, it's going to get whacked and broken and mess things up, so leaving it off. So we will work on this turret. There's all kinds of looks like grab handles to put on and some hooks and different things like that, and the main hatch on top, the cupola I think it's called, and the machine gun. Machine gun will go on last because it gets painted separately, a totally different color. So anyhow, let's go ahead and get all these hooks and handles and hatches on top. All right. Okay. Step 10 is building the gun barrel carriage, or the travel lock as I've heard it called. And step 11 is construction of utensil container. So let's do those 2 steps now. And the parts we are going to need are all on the A sprue. So let's find the A sprue and get those parts. Alright, here's step 14 done. These 2 hatches right here are part of 14. This front machine gun is 14, and then there's this little apparatus right here that pivots and flaps up and down, and I'm not sure what it's supposed to be yet, but it goes right there and kind of comes out the top up there like this, say. And I guess I'll figure out what that is as time goes on. So there's the hatches, the machine gun, and this gizmo. That was all step 14. So that's done. Now we move on to 15. It says fixing of upper hull parts A. So it looks like more tools and this long cable, towing cable, and some track parts. Track parts go on the side here. So we'll find those, and that's A31, which I believe is right here. Yep, there we are. Track parts. Spare track parts. Let's take those off the sprue, and we'll start gluing them onto the side there. How many of these do we need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think. All right. Let's see how we get on with those. Okay. On step 14, I got all of step 14 done, and I moved on down to step 15. Oh, by the way, on step 13, I did step 13 partially. I glued this tool rack onto the side of the tank, and I'm going to also glue this tool rack onto the side of this tank. I think that's where it goes. Yeah. Anyhow, getting back to step 15 here. Step 15 involves a few things, but it also involves putting all these spare track parts on the side of the tank. Now, this is really vague. They have you put this strip right here. The strip right here on the side of the tank, right there. And then you're supposed to take all these track pieces here. See these track pieces? These guys, and you're supposed to glue them on there. And I'm just not sure how that's supposed to go on. You know? I don't get it. Is this supposed to go like up that high? But that doesn't seem to do anything. Do I just put it on down like this? And then if so, how do you attach the other track pieces onto these track pieces? Because they show there's supposed to be 3 rows of them, kind of on top of each other, sort of, or overlapping or something. But I don't see how that's supposed to happen either. Anyhow, the instructions don't help, and the picture on the front of the box doesn't help. So this is going to be something I'm going to have to figure out. It's very vague how these are supposed to go on the side of the tank. Yeah. Alright, I think what I'm going to do while I'm thinking about that is work on something else. I'm going to put this other tool rack on. and I'll just kind of go from there. All right, I am on step 17, or I don't know what's going on here. It says 17, 18, fixing of upper and lower hull halves. Fixing an upper and lower hull halves, A and B. What's that supposed to mean? Oh, I see what they're doing. Okay, this makes sense now. 17 shows how to fit the front part in, and then step 17 shows how to fit the rear parts together. Okay, so I went ahead and did that. There it is. They're fitted together. I don't have anything glued yet, but it's fitted together. There's quite a gap here in the back. What I'm going to do is, and there's a little bit of a gap in the front here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this front part, these front parts together first. Let that set up really good. Then I'm going to glue this back half, and when I do that, get this to focus, I'm going to push it in with my fingers and get those to meet up, those two parts to meet up really well so that it doesn't have hardly any kind of a gap at all. And I may have to resort to using a piece of plastic to fill in the gaps. But we'll see. So the gap in the very front where the two halves, where the top and the bottom are joined together on this tank, there was a significant gap there. And I did not have a piece of plastic to fit in that gap that was small enough, that was thin enough. So what I've done is I taped off around the area and put some Tamiya putty in there. And we'll let that dry and sand it all smooth, and it should come out okay, I hope. The back part, where the upper and lower holes meet, right there in that area, it went together okay, except right there, there's a little bit of a gap. I'm going to leave that alone. The clip, there's like a plastic clip under here that kind of clips and holds these two halves together. Caused it to kind of bulge there or separate a little bit. Anyway, so I've just glued this down really well, and it's holding just fine. Once it gets painted, it should be just fine. There's another little weird anomaly with this kit, is the very upper back end of this tank. You can see I put the muffler pieces on, and hooks and hatch covers and grab handles and things like that all over the back of this thing. And then right there is a hole. There's just a hole in the top of the armor. Nothing goes there. There was nothing in the instructions that even show that hole. And and I looked through all the steps, and there's no piece that goes in that spot. So this is weird. Yeah, I do. You look at the drawing they provide here, the finished model. It shows you where to put decals. You look at this top view of the tank, and you can see right there is that spot where this hole is. I'll put this right next to it. There's that spot right there, and there is a hole in the plastic, as if something was supposed to go in there. In this drawing, they don't show anything. They just show that spot, but they don't show it as a hole. So, I guess I'm going to have to fill that in somehow. I wish I would have known that before I glued this thing together. Maybe there's some sort of a cap. I'm going to look through all the parts, the sprues, and see if there's some sort of a round hatch or cap or something that I can put there. And they just left it out of the instructions. I don't know. So anyway, what's left to do on this? What's left to do is on the side right here, you are supposed to hang all the spare track pieces. Right here, shown in step 15. And on both sides of this tank body. But there's no way that I can see yet of how to do this. Still got to figure that out. But there we are. There is the two halves together. Here is the turret sitting right there. I can't get it attached, but it sits right up there. And there's the long barrel that goes with it. So I guess I'm going to go try and figure out how to hang these track parts. And gotta just wait for this to dry up here, this putty. Then of course there's the tracks themselves that I have to put together. So maybe what I'll do is that I'll work on putting the tracks together. Yeah, okay. Well, at this point in the build of this tank, we have the main body of the tank all put together with various bits and pieces all over it. This thing is at the point where it is ready to get painted. The turret is at the point also where it's ready to be painted. So is the barrel, and so are the tracks. These tracks are not very good quality. They're kind of thin, and the way they hook together is pretty feeble. Feeble as in they don't look very realistic, and they're kind of fragile. So what I'm going to do as far as painting goes, first I'm going to paint the body of the tank and the turret of the tank and the barrel of the tank and the tracks all NATO black. That'll be the primer, if you will. Once that is done, I will proceed to start painting the actual finished colors on it. And I'm going to give this thing a overall coat of desert yellow. And then after the desert yellow, I will, excuse me a second, I will come in and I'm going to try and match this coloring of this box top here. So Black goes down first. Desert yellow goes down second. This green goes down last. And then once that's all done, everything will get a coat of flat clear. And I will proceed to put the rest of the pieces on this, the tools and the track pieces, stuff like that. And then the decals after that is done. Once it's at the point where the decals have been done, then I'm going to give it another coat of clear and do some weathering. Especially on these tracks, a little bit on the tank itself. When that's all completely done, give it a final coat of clear. Be done. So there's still more to do, and let's just move forward, huh? I have the tank body and the turret all painted up now. I have been putting the track on, this rubbery plasticky track on that I had given a coat of NATO black, and then a misting coat of the desert yellow on the tracks. And I have this one track on, and the other track, as you can see sitting right here, is waiting to go on the other side here. These rubbery plastic tracks are very, very tight fit. And in fact, when I was putting the track on this side right here, in the process of trying to stretch it around the wheels, it popped this whole assembly off. The whole drive sprocket assembly just popped right off. So I've had to re-glue those back on, including this one. I'm letting that glue dry up real well. And in the meantime, while that's drying, I am going to start putting tools and the tow cables on this tank. So I think the paint job came out pretty good. I'm happy with it. There's the whole thing with the turret on it. And yeah, I'm happy with it. I think it came out nice. Doesn't match the box top exactly, but it's close enough. And hey, when these tanks were out in the field, out in the battlefield, no two tanks looked alike as far as the camouflage pattern goes and color and stuff. They were told to do a certain type of pattern or color or whatever, and the crews themselves basically, or the tank group would, get out the paint rollers and the brushes and maybe air guns if they had them, and would paint them up, and they'd head out to battle. So anyway, there you go. That was my version of it. All right, all the tools are on. Tow cables are on. The extra track is on there. Both sets of tracks are now on the tank itself. The machine gun is loaded, or mounted on top. What's left now to do is decals and weathering. But first, it's going to get a clear coat over the entire thing. Then we'll do decals, and then we'll do weathering, and then we'll finish it with another clear coat. But there it is for now. And when I come back, we will have it, we will put the decals on. Okay. Here is the tank all painted up, and I have applied some weathering to it. Not a whole lot, but just some here and there. I'm no weathering expert, but you know, I do a little bit. It looks okay. Next thing I'm going to do is put some decals on it, and then we'll see how it looks from there. Here it is with all the decals on it. See if I can turn this around. Oh. I just put the decals on so they're still kind of wet. And I put the microsol on, so that still has to set up. Once that sets up and dries, and these decals have laid down the way they should, I will give this a couple more coats of the clear, the matte clear, and we will be done. So here we are, the finished model. There's the finished model. There's the picture of the tank on the box top. There's the finished model. I'm happy with the way it came out. I did not use the crew figures on this kit. I just didn't like them.
Right. Yeah. But it's the same exact brand as that free one that we got. And when I saw they